Why does a piece of handmade Vietnamese silk take so many days to finish? How can something as small as a silkworm cocoon become a soft, shining fabric that people wear for weddings, ceremonies, and special moments? And why do some families in northern Vietnam still keep this old craft alive, even when modern factories can make fabric much faster? At first, silk looks simple. You touch it, and it feels light. You hold it under the sun, and it shines softly. But behind that softness are boiling water, tiny threads, old looms, tired hands, family workshops, and a village that has been living with silk for generations. Today, I want to take you inside Nha Xa, a traditional silk village in Ha Nam, northern Vietnam. This is not a place built for tourists. This is a real village where people still wake up to the sound of weaving, where homes can also become workshops, and where a piece of fabric carries more than color and texture. It carries time, it carries patience, and it carries the quiet story of Vietnamese families who are trying to keep an old craft alive in a world that keeps moving faster. This morning, I arrived in Nha Xa, a quiet silk village in northern Vietnam. From the outside, it does not look like a famous place. There are no giant gates, no luxury showrooms at the entrance, no loud signs telling you that this village has carried a craft for hundreds of years. There are just small roads, old houses, motorbikes passing slowly, and the soft rhythm of daily life. But when you walk deeper into the village, you begin to hear something different. A steady sound comes from behind the doors. It is the sound of weaving. Not one loud machine from a big factory, but many small sounds coming from family workshops hidden inside ordinary homes. In many places in Vietnam, a house is not only a place to sleep. It can also be a kitchen, a storage room, a small shop, and a workshop where the whole family works together. Here in Nha Xa, silk is not separated from daily life. It is part of the home. A roll of thread may sit near the doorway. A piece of fabric may be drying in the sun. A loom may be placed only a few steps away from the family table. And somewhere inside the house, an older artisan may still be watching every thread carefully, the same way people in this village have done for generations. Nha Xa is often remembered as one of the old silk villages of the Red River Delta. Local stories say this craft has been here for more than 700 years. People in the village often connect its beginning with the time of the Tran dynasty, when the knowledge of growing mulberry, raising silkworms, pulling silk thread, and weaving fabric was passed down to local families. Today, not every step is done the old way. The village has changed. Some tools are more modern. Some threads may come from outside the village. Some looms now run with electricity. But the feeling of the craft is still here. You can hear it in the repeated sound of the loom. You can see it in the hands of the weavers. And you can feel it in the way people still treat silk not just as a product, but as something connected to their family, their memory, and their village. As I walked along the narrow road, I realized that Nha Xa does not reveal itself immediately. You have to listen first. You have to stop in front of a quiet house. In Nha Xa, silk does not begin inside a luxury store. It begins in simple places: a small yard, a family workshop, a basket of cocoons, a pot of hot water, a wooden frame, a hand reaching carefully for a thread so thin that it almost disappears under the light. To many foreigners, silk may only mean something expensive and elegant: a scarf, a dress, a piece of fabric kept for special occasions. But here, before silk becomes beautiful, it first looks very ordinary. The cocoons are small and pale. They do not look expensive. They do not look powerful, but inside each cocoon is a hidden thread, and that thread is the beginning of everything. When the cocoons are placed into hot water, the room begins to change. Steam rises slowly. The air becomes warm and slightly heavy. The smell is simple, earthy, and real. This is not the smell of a fashion store. This is the smell of work. The artisan does not rush. She watches the water, touches the cocoon, and gently finds the first loose end of the silk thread. This small movement looks easy, but it is not. If the hand pulls too hard, the thread can break. If the hand is too slow, the rhythm is lost. And if the thread is not handled carefully, the fabric later will never have the same smooth feeling. In many Vietnamese craft villages, the most difficult skills are not always explained with long words. They are hidden in small movements. A finger turning slightly, a wrist pulling gently, an older woman looking at the thread and knowing, without measuring, whether it is ready. This is the kind of knowledge that is not learned in one day. It is learned by sitting beside someone older, by watching, by failing, by doing the same movement again and again until the hands remember what the mind no longer needs to think about. Outside the workshop, life continues normally. A motorbike passes through the village road. Someone opens a metal gate. A neighbor calls across the alley. A family prepares lunch. And inside the house, the silk thread keeps moving. This is something I find very special about Vietnamese craft villages. Work and daily life are often mixed together. There is no clear border between the home and the workshop. The place where people eat can be only a few steps away from the place where they weave. The sound of the loom can become part of childhood. The smell of dye can become part of memory. A child growing up here may not think silk is something rare. For them, it may simply be the sound they hear after school, the fabric drying in the yard, or the work their grandparents have done for as long as they can remember. After the thread is prepared, another part of the village begins to appear. Color. In one corner, silk is being dyed. The fabric or thread is lowered into colored water. The color looks deep at first, almost too strong. Then the artisan lifts it, checks it, turns it, and lets the water drip back down. This is where patience becomes visible. The color cannot be forced. It has to enter the thread slowly. It has to stay even. It has to survive sunlight, washing, and time. A beautiful color on silk is not only about looking good for one moment. It must stay alive after the fabric leaves the village. Outside, pieces of silk are placed under the sun. In many modern factories, drying can be controlled by machines. But in villages like this, sunlight still matters. The weather becomes part of the work. If the sun is strong, the fabric dries faster. If the sky turns dark, the whole rhythm of the day changes. People have to move quickly. They watch the clouds the same way farmers watch the fields. Because here, even the sky can decide how much work can be finished in one day. As the silk dries, it moves gently in the wind. From far away, it may look peaceful, but after seeing the process, I understand that this peaceful moment carries many hours of labor before it. The boiling, the pulling, the dyeing, the waiting, the checking, the repeating. Nothing here happens instantly, and maybe that is why handmade silk feels different. It is not only soft because of the material, it feels soft because so much patience has already been placed inside it. The beauty of silk is easy to see. The difficulty behind it is much easier to miss. When a finished piece of silk is placed on a table, it looks calm. It looks clean. It looks almost effortless. But nothing in this process is effortless. Every step takes time. Every mistake costs work. Every thread has to be handled with care. And for the families who still do this craft, silk is not only a beautiful tradition, it is also a way to make a living. That is where the story becomes more complicated. Many people love handmade things. They admire the color. They touch the fabric. They say it feels special. But when it is time to pay, not everyone understands why handmade silk costs more than ordinary fabric. In the modern market, cheaper cloth is everywhere. Factory fabric can be made quickly. It can be sold at a lower price. It can look bright and smooth enough for people who only need something simple. For many customers, that is enough. But here in Nha Xa, the cost of silk is not only the material. It is the time of the artisan. It is the skill of the family. It is the electricity running the loom. It is the dye, the thread, the space inside the home, and the many quiet hours no one sees. A piece of handmade silk carries work that cannot always be explained on a price tag. This is one of the hardest parts of keeping a traditional craft alive. The value is real, but not always visible. The work is meaningful, but the income is not always certain. Some days, there are orders. Some days, there are fewer customers. Some seasons are busy. Other times, the workshop becomes quieter. For older artisans, this uncertainty is part of life. They have lived with the craft for many years. They know its rhythm. They know both the good days and the difficult days. But for young people, the choice is harder. A young person growing up in Nha Xa may respect the craft. They may love their grandparents. They may feel proud when people talk about the village. But they also have to think about their future. They need stable income. They need time for their own life. They need a reason to believe that staying with silk can give them more than memory. This is the quiet pressure inside many craft villages in Vietnam. The older generation asks how to protect the tradition. The younger generation asks how to build a life. Both questions are important, and neither question is easy. If young people leave, the village may slowly lose the hands that continue the work. But if they stay without a good future, the craft becomes a burden instead of a heritage. That is why the survival of Nha Xa cannot depend only on nostalgia. It cannot survive only because people say it is old. It has to survive because people can still find value in it today. The village has already changed in many ways. Some families no longer do every step from raising silkworms to weaving fabric. Some threads may be brought in from outside. Some looms now use electricity. Some designs are made for modern customers, not only for traditional clothing. At first, these changes may make people worry that the craft is losing its old soul. But after spending time here, I see it differently. Change does not always mean disappearance. Sometimes change is the only way a tradition can keep breathing. If the people of Nha Xa had refused every modern tool, the work might have become too slow, too expensive, or too difficult to continue. If they had ignored new customers, the silk might have stayed only as a memory. So the real question is not whether the village should change. The real question is how much it can change without losing what makes it special. Can new tools support old skills? Can modern designs still carry the feeling of handmade silk? Can young people find new ways to sell, promote, and protect the craft? Can customers learn to see not only the fabric but the people behind it? These questions matter because a craft village is not a museum. The people here are not actors from the past. They are living families. They need income. They need rest. They need customers who understand the value of their work. They need the tradition to be respected, but also useful in real life. This is something many visitors forget. We often want traditional villages to look old, quiet, and untouched. We want them to stay the same so we can feel the beauty of the past. But the people who live here cannot survive only for our imagination. They have to live in the present. They have to pay for food, school, electricity, materials, repairs, and daily life. Behind the soft surface of silk, there is a real economy. Behind the peaceful sound of the loom, there is pressure. Behind the smile of the artisan, there may be worry about the next order, the next generation, and the future of the village. But even with these challenges, Nha Xa is still here. The looms are still running. The threads are still being prepared. The fabric is still being folded by careful hands. And that gives this village a kind of quiet strength. Not the loud kind of strength. Not the kind that tries to prove itself. But the kind that wakes up every morning, opens the workshop, and continues. Maybe that is the most honest thing about Nha Xa. It is not a perfect village. It is not a frozen picture of the past. It is a living place, carrying both pride and pressure. And maybe that is why its silk feels so human. Because behind every soft piece of fabric, there is also uncertainty, change, hope, and the courage to keep going. At the beginning of this journey, I wondered why handmade Vietnamese silk takes so much time. Now, after spending a day in Nha Xa, I think the answer is not only in the cocoon. It is not only in the thread. It is not only in the dye, the loom, or the sunlight. The real answer is in the people. It is in the older artisan who watches every thread with quiet patience. It is in the family that turns part of their home into a workshop. It is in the seller who folds the silk carefully, because she knows the fabric carries more than color. It is in the village road, the small yard, the lunch table, the sound of the loom, and the hands that keep repeating the same movements day after day. To many people, silk is something soft and beautiful. But here, I learned that silk can also be heavy. Heavy with time, heavy with memory, heavy with the pressure of keeping an old craft alive. Nha Xa is not a perfect picture of the past. It is a real village. It has changed. It has adapted. Some old steps are no longer done the same way. Some tools are more modern. Some young people have left. Some families still wonder what the future will look like. But maybe that is what makes this place feel honest. Tradition is not something that survives because it stays untouched forever. Tradition survives when people continue to give it a reason to exist. Here, that reason is still found in the sound of weaving, in the patience of the artisan, in the family that keeps working together, in the customer who begins to understand why handmade things cannot be compared only by price. In a world where so many things are made quickly, used quickly, and forgotten quickly, Nha Xa reminds me that some beautiful things still need time. Some skills cannot be rushed. Some stories cannot be told only through the finished product. You have to walk into the village. You have to listen to the loom. You have to watch the hands. You have to see the thread before it becomes fabric. Only then do you understand that handmade silk is not just something people wear. It is something people live with. And if one day you touch a piece of Vietnamese silk, I hope you will remember this village. Not only the softness of the fabric, but the boiling water, the thin thread, the dyed color drying under the sun, the old hands checking every line, the family meal beside the workshop, and the quiet hope that this craft will not disappear. Because behind every handmade object, there is a life. Behind every piece of silk, there is a village. And behind the beauty of Nha Xa silk, there are people who still choose patience in a world that keeps asking for speed.